everyone, and welcome to Live Interactive English. I am Mike, and today we are going to be talking about something new under the sun: floating solar panels. That sounds like a wonderful idea, especially for here in Taiwan. We're surrounded by water, so we could float things in the water. If something floats, it just sits on the surface of the water like a boat floats or like a duck floats. But imagine if we could cover the water, well, at least in certain places. You still want to go surfing and, fishing boats still need to get out there. But in certain places where there's water and not much activity on it, we could put solar panels there and they could float up and down and they could collect light from the sun, turn that into energy and do all sorts of good and clean things with it around Taiwan. In fact, Taiwan is a really great place for solar panels in general. We get a lot of sun here during the year. We could put solar panels on the roofs of many buildings. I've noticed that newer buildings have them, but I've also noticed that in places like California, when you see pictures, they have a lot more solar panels on the roofs of their buildings. I think that's something we should do. And while we're doing that in our cities down there on the coast, as I said, where people aren't using the seashore and the water, we could put some solar panels there. Wouldn't that be neat? Well, it's a neat idea, but of course it does come with some problems. So let's get into the article and find out what is easy and what is not so easy with this something new under the sun. We're talking about floating solar panels.
As the switch to clean energy continues, one overlooked technology is finally getting the attention it deserves: floating solar panels. And with 2/3 of the Earth's surface covered with water, you might start seeing a lot more of them soon. Floating solar panels are solar panels designed to be placed in bodies of water like reservoirs, lakes, or seas. The solar panels are attached to hollow structures and are then anchored in place to prevent them from floating away. The most obvious advantage is that they free up valuable land for other uses like crops and housing. They also typically produce more power than regular solar panels because the water they float on helps prevent overheating, improving efficiency.
All right, something new under the sun. We're talking about floating solar panels. The title also is using this expression, there's nothing new under the sun, kind of meaning there's nothing new these days. Everything's old, or it's a new version of something old. So if we say there's nothing new under the sun, we're saying nothing creative or original is coming along. Well, here we have something new for you under the sun, or a new thing to introduce: floating solar panels. The article begins, as the switch to clean energy continues, one overlooked technology is finally getting the attention it deserves: floating solar panels. Yes, indeed. So yeah, we're making a switch to green energy. We're not building, coal burning and oil burning power plants anymore. We're building more wind farms and solar panels and things like that. That's all good. This is green or clean energy. It doesn't produce any nasty pollution for the environment. Good stuff. But one thing has been sort of overlooked, and that's these floating solar panels. Sure, we put them on buildings, but how about putting them on the water? This is something I guess people have known about for a long time, but they've kind of been ignoring it. They haven't been paying attention to it. It's been there the whole time, but people have kind of had their focus on other things. That's why it's described as overlooked. Something that is overlooked is kind of ignored. Maybe not on purpose. Maybe like, yeah, we know about that, but let's not talk about that. Maybe you're just kind of busy in your day and something just slips past you. You didn't choose to not pay attention. You just ended up not paying attention, often because you have a lot of other things to pay attention to, and sometimes things sort of slip by. They become overlooked. For example, the overlooked mistakes in the report caused a major delay. So they paid attention to some things in the report. The things they didn't pay attention to, the overlooked things, those caused a problem. And that is kind of the case sometimes. Back to the article, it says, and with 2/3 of the Earth's surface covered with water, you might start seeing a lot more of them soon. Yeah, well, it makes sense. to put solar panels on buildings and cities because, the buildings are up there. We can point the solar panels at the sky, and cities are where people live. We need lots of power, but with a lot of the cities and buildings already having solar panels on them and us needing more power, we might see floating solar panels much more frequently soon and into the future. Floating solar panels are solar panels designed to be placed in bodies of water, like reservoirs, lakes, or seas. It says the solar panels are attached to hollow structures and are then anchored in place to prevent them from floating away. So the hollow structure will act sort of as the boat that kind of keeps them floating, and then they're anchored in place to stop them from floating away, from having the water sort of move them slowly or quickly away from land where they won't be useful. Basically, they keep them attached to the land or the ground in some way, and this structure is designed to float. What is a structure? It's something you build. We could say a building is a type of structure, but we could also say a tent is a type of structure. One is big and permanent, the other one is small and you can put it up by yourself in 20 minutes, but it's something that you have built, you have created it, it sits there on the earth, and it has been put there for a special purpose. Some windows were broken, but there was no damage to the building's structure. Sounds like this happened after an earthquake when many structures, buildings of all sizes, can be damaged. The most obvious advantage or good thing is that they free up valuable land for other uses, like crops and housing. It says they also typically produce more power than regular solar panels because the water they float on helps prevent overheating. Improving efficiency. Of course, they're sitting there on the water. Solar panels are supposed to collect the sun and turn it into energy, and that can create heat. But if you put them in the water helps to take the heat away much more efficiently or with greater efficiency than the air or a machine like a water pump would if you're doing it on land. That's a really good point. Efficiency is how efficient something is. If something is efficient, you're getting a lot out of it and you're not putting too much into it. Okay, so riding a bicycle is very efficiency. It has very efficient. It has high efficiency as a way of getting around. You put in a little energy with your legs, but you can travel a very long distance. Whereas if you have a heavy weight on your back and you're climbing stairs, that's pretty low efficiency. You're putting a lot of energy and you're only moving short distances. So basically, how much you put in versus how much you get out and how much you waste, that is a measure of efficiency. For example, the city is trying to improve the efficiency of its transportation system. They're trying to make the system more efficient. And we should be efficient and take a break right now.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。今天的课程是关于漂浮太阳能板 （Floating Solar Panels）。标题里面它有用到说 something new under the sun， 这其实是双关语哦。它是从这一句俗语 There is nothing new under the sun， 太阳底下没有新鲜事，把它改写而来，去表达说太阳底下真的有新鲜事。那一方面就是要传达漂浮太阳能板是个新的技术，另一方面则是带出 sun 太阳，还有这个 solar panel 太阳能板的这个连结，所以有双关的效果。课文写到说，随着转为干净能源持续的进行，有一项被忽视的科技终于得到应该有的关注了，那就是漂浮太阳能板。它是设计用来放在水库湖泊、大海等等的水体当中的太阳能板。那这种太阳能板附着在中空的结构上，然后固定在适当位置，以防止它飘走。最明显的优点就是说，它们可以腾出宝贵的土地来作为其他用途，那通常也会比一般太阳能板产生更多电力，因为它们漂浮在水上，这个水呢就有助于预防过热，那么效能就会更好。单字 overlooked 它是形容词，形容受忽略的、没被发现的。Structure 表示结构、构造或是结构体。Efficiency 它是指效率、功效或是效能，是个名词。那我们接着回到课文中。
The main reason floating solar panels aren't common is that they're expensive. They can also be damaged by strong storms such as typhoons, limiting where they can be used. Finally, they can also reduce the oxygen levels in the water they're placed in, potentially killing fish. Floating solar panels were first used in Japan in 2007, but they've only recently begun to pop up in the rest of the world. Although it probably should have happened sooner, it's certainly better late than never.
So, floating solar panels are wonderful. We can put them on the ocean. They're more efficient. They're great. Why don't we see them everywhere? Good question. Here's an answer. The main reason floating solar panels aren't common is that they're expensive. Well, yeah, solar panels can be expensive. Floating solar panels even more so. And of course, if they're floating out there in the water, they can have problems that they wouldn't have if they were, just on a building in the city. It says they can also be damaged by strong storms, such as typhoons, limiting where they can be used. Of course, solar panels anywhere can be damaged if they get hit by rocks or trees during a typhoon, but imagine they're moving up and down, the waves, the wind, the water, all of that kind of stuff can make it much harder to keep a floating solar panel nice and healthy. Finally, it says they can also reduce the oxygen levels in the water they're placed in, potentially killing fish. I'm not sure how that would happen. They are blocking sunlight, so it could have something to do with that, but of course, we've also read that because of pollution and for other reasons, oxygen levels in the ocean do go down, and that can kill off the plants and the animals that live in the water, because even if you swim under the sea, you still need oxygen. Most living creatures, plants and animals, need oxygen. This is a type of gas. This is an element. The H2O, when we talk about the O in water, that is oxygen. And of course, we think of oxygen as being something we breathe. We need it in our bodies to keep our cells alive and to keep ourselves alive. For example, it says whales need to come up to the surface of the water to breathe in oxygen, whereas other fish use their gills to separate the oxygen from the water. Then we also had the word potentially. When something is potentially a problem, it could be a problem. If you are potentially going to go to that wonderful new school, you could be going. There is a possibility that you could. It's not guaranteed, it's not 100%, it's not definitely going to happen, but it could happen. Everything we need there for it to happen is there, but it still hasn't happened yet, but it could. For example, the new drug could potentially provide a cure for the disease. They have to do a few more months of tests, but hopefully everything will work out. Back to the article. Floating solar panels were first used in Japan in 2007, sugoi, but they've only recently begun to pop up in the rest of the world. So there you go. The Japanese started them. They're good at that, right? They build airports out on the ocean. So of course, putting solar panels out there seems like a great idea, and they've begun to pop up or appear. You've started to see them in other parts of the world. Although it probably should have happened sooner, it's certainly better late than never. Yes, we should have had floating solar panels back in the 1990s if we were, organized and had our heads on right. Well, it's taken a bit of time, but they're becoming more common now. So, yay, that's a good thing. Here's our what do you think question. Are floating solar panels an ideal clean energy solution? Why or why not? Good question. I would say using floating solar panels is not an ideal solution since it does lead to lower oxygen levels in the ocean, and that is already a problem. So if we can find a way to avoid that problem, the lowered oxygen levels, then maybe they could be ideal. But like with most things in the world, science comes along, provides a solution to a problem, and then creates a few more problems which we need to solve now. But let's keep going. Let's keep building solar panels because they are much better than, coal-burning power plant. Those are history. Let's go with the floating solar panels. I like that idea. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Take care of yourselves, each other, and our Mother Earth. And we'll see you back here sometime very soon. Until then, bye-bye.
漂浮太阳能板听起来很多好处，可是为什么不普及呢？其实主要是因为它们价格昂贵，而且可能遭受台风之类的那种强烈风暴破坏，因此呢，限制了它们可以使用的范围。另外，它们也有可能会降低设置地点那水中的含氧量，那可能就会导致这个鱼类死亡。单字 oxygen 就是氧气，还有 potentially 这个副词表示有可能的或是潜在的。那么课文最后提到说，漂浮太阳能板呢，最早是在2007年在日本使用，直到最近才开始在世界其他地方出现。虽然它可能应该是要早点发生的，可是却没有发生嘛，但有总比没有好嘛。那么文中它用到 better late than never， 我们来学一下，它可以表达出晚做总比不做好，迟到总比不到好的那种意思。好，这边两个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是 pop up， 它表示突然出现，不经意冒出来。那么 pop 做不及物动词的时候，常常是指说出人意外的从某处蹦出来、离开啊，或者是脱落的意思。那么 pop up 就可以表达说突然或是出乎意料的出现或是冒出来的意思。这个主词呢，可以是人或者是事物。举例来说 ，Instagrammable cafes have popped up all over the city。那座城市各地冒出许多值得上传到 Instagram 上面的咖啡简餐店，也就是说啊，多了很多适合 IG 打卡的店了。好，再来第二个重点是 should have 加上过去分词 PP， 是指说早应该做某事却没有怎么样。它就带有遗憾的语气。那么否定的 shouldn't have 加上过去分词 PP， 则是指说不应该怎么样，但却做了。举例来说 ，I should have gone to bed earlier last night。我昨晚应该要早点上床睡觉的。I shouldn't have stayed up last night。我昨晚不应该熬夜的，来不及了。好了，那以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
As the switch to clean energy continues, one overlooked technology is finally getting the attention it deserves: floating solar panels. And with 2/3 of the Earth's surface covered with water, you might start seeing a lot more of them soon. Floating solar panels are solar panels designed to be placed in bodies of water like reservoirs, lakes, or seas. The solar panels are attached to hollow structures and are then anchored in place to prevent them from floating away. The most obvious advantage is that they free up valuable land for other uses like crops and housing. They also typically produce more power than regular solar panels because the water they float on helps prevent overheating, improving efficiency. The main reason floating solar panels aren't common is that they're expensive. They can also be damaged by strong storms such as typhoons, limiting where they can be used. Finally, they can also reduce the oxygen levels in the water they're placed in, potentially killing fish. Floating solar panels were first used in Japan in 2007, but they've only recently begun to pop up in the rest of the world. Although it probably should have happened sooner, it's certainly better late than never.
Hello, I'm Matt.
I'm Carolyn.
Today we're playing Guess the Bear. We each have 3 cards with 2 example sentences, and in the example sentences, the vocabulary words or phrases are replaced with the word bear. We'll each have 1 minute to see if we can guess all 3 words or phrases. So Carolyn, are you ready?
I hope so.
All right, 1 minute on the clock. Let's begin. Your first one is a noun. Air is composed mainly of nitrogen and bear. Mountain climbers need bear at high altitudes.
Can you say the first one again?
Air is composed mainly of hydrogen and bear.
Oxygen?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next one is an adverb. He was diagnosed with a bear fatal disease. The drug is bear harmful when taken without food.
Especially?
No, different.
What's the first sentence again?
He was diagnosed with a bear fatal disease.
Pass.
Okay, let's try the next one. It's an adjective. There were too many bear mistakes in the report. The town is a great but often bare place for tourists to visit.
First one again?
There were two. Okay, so that one I was just reading was overlooked. So there were too many overlooked mistakes in the report, and the town is a great but often overlooked place for tourists to visit. The other one was an adverb that's potentially. He was diagnosed with a potentially fatal disease, and the drug is potentially harmful when taken without food.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure.
See if I can do better.
All right, let's put a minute on the clock for you. All right, your first word is a noun. The old bear was still standing after 100 years. There are problems with the outside bare of the house.
Wall, surface, outside fence, wall. Let's try the next one. I don't know.
Okay.
It's way too many things.
All right, your next one is a noun. Green power is about maximizing energy bear. Laura works with both speed and bear.
Efficiency?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and your last one, phrase 2 words. There are so many coffee shops bearing bear all over the city. This word keeps bearing bear. I wonder what it means.
Popping up?
Yeah.
Okay, what was the other one again?
Okay, yeah, the first one, noun, 1 word. The old bear was still standing after 100 years. There are problems with the outside bear of the house.
Okay. What was that one?
Structure.
Okay.
It was structure. Yeah, but good one with efficiency.
So what were the
pop-up.
sentences for structure?
The old bear was still, the old structure was still standing after 100 years, and there are problems with the outside structure of the house.
I missed it.
I know. You're so close.